Hi, my name is Mike Fallat, and I own two different companies. One is a book publishing company, and another one is a lead generation company for home service businesses. And you are listening to the Head Smack podcast.
You are listening to conversations with misfits, mavericks, and trailblazers.
Hey, welcome to the Head Smack podcast. My name is Paul Pavoni, and I'm excited to have another misfit with me. I have Mike Fallat with me, and he is the founder of Dream Starters Publishing and the lead marketing CRM, helping entrepreneurs publish books that generate wealth and influence. With a fearless, never say die attitude, he turned failures into success, proving that storytelling is the key to building a legacy. How you doing, Mike? Glad to have you here, man.
Man, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me, and let's talk a little bit about business, entrepreneurship, and maybe having fun as we build stuff. So thanks so much, man.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Love that background. Love the spinning books. Probably one of the best backgrounds I've seen out of the people that I've interviewed. So
you.
pretty awesome, man. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think we're going to have a lot of value for entrepreneurs, those that are interested in publishing, and those that are interested in growth. So I think they're going to get a lot of head smacks along the way. And I appreciate you doing this. So usually I like to start kind of knowing a little bit more about you and you sharing that with the audience. And so I like to start with origin stories. And so you can go as far back as really relevant. But tell me the Mike story. How did all this start?
Well, I'll go back to, I guess, 10th grade, whenever I started to put together maybe a plan of attack when I was about, when I was planning on graduating high school. I was putting together a report on Navy SEALs. And I was so excited to write about Navy SEALs. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Since I'm a shorter guy, how am I going to get girls? Let me become a Navy SEAL. That's what's going to work, right? And my dad was Navy. He did a couple things that are really cool in the Navy back in the day. And so I was like, I'm going to follow in my dad's footsteps and become a Navy SEAL. He wasn't a Navy SEAL, but I would join the Navy to become a SEAL. And so I'm putting together this report, and right around that exact same time, I'm going out to get my first job. So here I am with my mindset on joining the Navy, and I got my first job at this convenience store down the road from me. And that's when I met the first millionaire that I ever met in my life. Like, he was official. Like, this guy was a millionaire.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, he drove the fancy cars, dated the pretty girls, had all kinds of cool stuff. Wait a second, maybe I don't want to do this Navy thing, right? Maybe I want to become this thing called an entrepreneur. It's the first time I ever heard what that exactly was. So he took me under his wing. He started to kind of give me a little bit of education on what it was like to get your finances in order. And the way I caught his attention was I didn't cash my paychecks. I mean, for 6 months, technically, I didn't cash my paychecks. And because if I didn't have the money, I wouldn't spend it. And so he came to me and he said, "Are you the guy that is not cashing his paychecks?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you realize how much that's throwing off our books? You better cash those damn paychecks." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Why aren't you? You're a 16-year-old kid. Why aren't you cashing your paycheck?" And I'm like, "If I don't have it, I won't spend it. That's my way of saving my money." And he goes, "Okay, let me start teaching you about investing and all that." So
Yeah.
that's whenever he took a liking to me and gave me the Kiplinger's magazine, showed me a little bit about stocks and all that. So I worked for him for 2 years, and he said, "What are you going to do when you graduate from high school?" Well, I was going to do, Pitt or La Roche College. He goes, "No, you want to go to Duquesne University. That's what I recommend." I'm like, "I don't have the money for that." "You'll get in, you'll get the money, don't worry." So I got into Duquesne University, and he's like, "You should take finance." I'm like, "No, I love marketing." He goes, "You can always get a marketing degree. Finance is where you want to go." So I kind of listened to this guy. And
Yeah.
while I'm in school, I'm still working for him. I'm learning from him. I just saw how people treated him. He was just very assertive. And right around my junior or senior year of college, he gives me a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So you talk about defining moments. It's meeting this guy, but also him giving me Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that's when it hit me. When I graduated from college, I am into real estate. I want to start my own business. I want to get on the right side of the quadrant, if you guys are familiar with that book.
Yeah.
And I knew my next step: become a real estate agent, start investing in property. And I started investing right out of 22, 23 years old, bought my first 4-unit building because of this guy. I left that job. I was off on my own. And that's when I got cocky. Okay, I bought this first business. Here I am as a landlord. What do I do next? You know what? My heart is in startups. So
Yeah.
I started 4 different businesses back to back to back, and they
Wow.
were all major failures, right? So buying real estate's one thing, but starting a business from the ground up, totally different game.
Right.
So I
Right.
started this business, failed, next business failed, next business failed, next business failed. Here I am, desperate, in severe debt. I had to take a corporate job to save my ass at the time. And I said, what the hell? Why would these businesses fail? I thought I could make money as this entrepreneur. Why don't I try one more time at a business that's very easy to build? A
Yeah.
direct to home dog product service because I love dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I started to go to dog shows and pet expos, and here I am selling these delivery boxes for your dog. And I started making money. Brought my guitar, I'm singing, and it works. I am telling you, Paul, people started to see me as a success because they saw me at these events. I'm making money. And the way that I look at a successful business is if you're making more money than you're spending, to me, that's a success. I
Yeah.
would say that I probably would only make about $40,000 in a year if I stayed at that. But here I
Yeah.
am making money rather than losing money. And individuals came out of the woodwork asking me, how did you do this? What would you do when it comes to an LLC? What do you do about branding? And that's when the idea hit me. Why don't I write this down on what made this successful as compared to the first 4 businesses that were major failures? Simplicity, demand, having vision, right?
Yeah.
Understanding the business in totality. Put that in a book as if I would give my former self. And that's when I put it up on Amazon and turned it into an Amazon bestseller. The girl
Wow.
who I was dating at the time was an editor. She helped me put it together. I talked to a guy in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I'm located, on how to become a bestseller. I did it. And when I became a bestseller, that's whenever it hit me. Oh my God, I have this new accolade. It's going to change my life.
Yeah.
And if I use it properly, I'll get speaking gigs, I'll get attention online, which I did, and I will start to really build my personal brand, which is exactly what happened. And I thought I would help people start businesses. Turns out when you write a book and you're very vocal about it, individuals all over the United States will ask you, how did you do that? And that's when the other light bulb went on. And I said, why don't I just do it for you? I'll
Yeah.
interview you. I'll write it up for you. Let's turn you into a bestseller. And that's when the idea of Dream Starters Publishing hit me. That was right around 2016, early 2017. And since then, we've done 300, and as of right today, 381 best-selling books for
Wow.
entrepreneurs. So from
Wow.
there, I met many people, invested in other different businesses, and it's been a wild ride ever since, man.
So the learning from uh, that you got for doing the dog product stuff, where did you learn? Was it from the mistakes? Was it from a book? Was it from another mentor? Like, how did you turn that around to doing it right? Where did that learning come from?
Well, the first 4 businesses were based off of me thinking I was Steve Jobs, right? All right, how do I just build a business that I truly don't understand but sounds really sexy? I was into data, analytics, big events company or events and entertainment company, things that are really pricey, expensive, time consuming, but takes a lot of time. So I thought I was trying to build businesses that were very sexy, right? On
Yeah.
paper and to
Yeah.
the average person. Like you would walk into a bar to try to impress a girl and you say, "Oh, I get this data and analytics company." And it didn't make any money because it was so hard to sell. And when you're a startup entrepreneur, you really need to boil everything down to a sentence. And does that sentence add value to somebody out there? And are they willing to pay you money right then and there? And,
Yeah.
and and I realized for the first 4 businesses, everything was complicated. It took time to understand. But the 5th business, direct to home dog product service known as Doggy Surprise, which was basically a monthly delivery for your dog, right?
Yeah.
Do you want
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yes or no? $30, right?
Right. 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 Yeah.
Yes or no. And not only was it yes, and it's inexpensive, but it was something that people value not just once, but monthly. So it taught me about recurring revenue. And I think it was really just trial and error. But when you go into too many different directions or try to be something that you're not, you really have to humble yourself, break it down and say, okay, even though it doesn't sound that sexy, let me make sure that I'm of service to those
Yeah.
around me. If I could add value to somebody who's around me, they're willing to pay me for it. So forget about all the hoopla. Make money by being of service. Just like Jim Rohn said, be of service to the many, for service to the many leads to greatness. Don't think money first. Think, how could I add value and how could I serve you? The money will come.
Nice, nice. So where did that model come from for the home delivery? Was like Dollar Shave Club? Like what inspired that monthly delivery model for you?
You know what? I think I saw it from a few different businesses, and I was starting to put it together. And then I did see BarkBox. It wasn't. I don't know if it was BarkBox that I saw first, but when I saw BarkBox do it, I was like, "Oh my god, I could do this!" But
Yeah,
I could do it a little bit bigger. Not bigger as in like I can reach more people. Maybe I can make it a much bigger box for $100 or 500, or only do it for special occasions.
yeah,
So I started to see how I could be a little bit different, have a competitive advantage, and be more local. It's kind of weird to say this, but I focused on Pittsburgh, and I think that gave me an advantage over certain BarkBox customers or BarkBox marketing.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was able to say, I'm from Pittsburgh, down the road. We bring everything in Pittsburgh and we can send it to you. So that was another way of having a competitive advantage over a BarkBox company that was national. There was no tie to it locally.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. And so, how long did you continue doing that after you wrote the book?
I didn't do it for much longer. I would probably say for 4 months afterwards because individuals were willing to pay me, and this is crazy at the time, but it was $2,000 to write their book. I would
Wow.
interview them for 3 hours. I would hear everything through a Skype, I think it was at the time, and then we eventually transferred to Zoom.
Yeah,
But I would listen to their story. I would ask them questions, hit stop, and then write for 30 days. Hand it to the girl I was dating. She would edit it. I would do cover designs. I would say, "What do you think about this?" And they would say, "Yes, no." I would fix it up. And I wrote probably the first 20 books. Um,
wow.
and so you get very good at, I guess you could say, clarifying someone else's message.
Right.
And then you realize maybe I'm great at sales and marketing and, just having a great conversation. I guarantee there's somebody out there who can write way better than me. And
Yeah.
so that's when I started looking on Upwork and a couple other places to find a writer. I found 3 writers, 2 of them worked out, and we started to grow from there.
Wow. And so, had you ever written a book before that, or where did the writing skill come from? Like, where did?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yeah. So what's this sounds crazy too. Now that you bring this up, while I was starting those first 4 businesses, I think one of the reasons why I did it was to impress a girl. I think everybody
That's how
does.
most stories start, right?
Yeah. So the girl that I lost out in college, she was this English major, and I thought, you know what? She's still connected with me on LinkedIn. Why don't I write these books or write these blogs online to explain what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and how far we're taking these business ideas. So
Yeah.
I started writing blogs almost every single day, outlining what we were doing and how we were doing it. Now, we weren't making money, but it was really exciting. I was getting interns from Duquesne and Pitt. I don't know if you're familiar with Pittsburgh, but there's a couple colleges really close to each other. And I got like 40 interns. If you know the
Wow.
right people, you can get interns for your company and then you don't have to pay them at all. So I had 40 interns working for me. There's no money
40?
coming in. Yeah,
Wow.
40. So it taught me a little bit about leadership, and I sucked at it. So, I was writing these blogs day in and day out, posting it on LinkedIn. And I'm telling you, it's funny. I was working at a gym in the morning. So 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., I would work at a gym. And from 5 to 7, nobody's coming in. So I would have time to just clarify
Yeah.
what I was doing and how I was doing it, put it down in a blog and share it on LinkedIn. So it did get me to fall in love with writing, but I
Yeah.
realized the
Yeah.
intangibles of writing, of how much it does for you as a communicator. You're able to
Yeah.
articulate your thoughts. And if you could do that, you could lead people much easier. So I saw the benefits, and I thought it was helping out with the girl on the front line. Turns out, are you ready for this little caveat here? She wasn't. She was not reading these at all. But it
Oh,
got
wow.
me to a point where I was writing enough that's whenever I put out my one of my first successful business hit the ground. I was like, why don't I write a book on this? It was so easy to take a bunch of those blogs,
Right.
simplify it,
Right.
and that's when I caught the eye of the girl that I was trying to impress back in the day. So it turns out the editor was the girl that I was trying to impress. And so, guys, if you want to get the girl, I don't know if it's start a business or write, but maybe the combination of those two will
Yeah.
do it for you.
Yeah. And those are a lot healthier ways to get the girl than what some people do. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And so those interns, those 40 interns, were they working for the dog monthly dog
No,
product?
no, it
Okay,
was no, it was when it was the dog business, it was just me. So breaking everything, I mean, it humbled me because here I am having 40 interns, running these data and analytics, events company. It was basically a rewards program. If you shopped around at different local businesses, you're able to get points that you could use on this website that will get gift cards for the businesses. And we were able to get the data and then sell the ads to them. It was just so complicated. And it sounded really cool, just no money
yeah,
coming in. And I'm telling
yeah,
you, no matter
yeah.
how cool your business is, if you're not making any money, nobody cares. That's it.
And so for that first book, maybe I missed it, but what inspired you to collect all those blogs and put them into a book?
So I got a lot of questions from people.
Questions, okay, yeah,
Yeah, and I think I was smart enough to know that I could put a book out and it will change my identity. And if I could become a best-selling author, because I think I heard about this, it's just a game, right? It's all leverage, positioning, and
yeah,
timing. Anybody can become a best-selling author. Anybody can be a number one rated podcast in a certain category. You, if you know the game, if you understand leverage, if you understand positioning, and you know the timing of things, you can win these little games, and these little games can give you a new identity that will open up many doors. So I knew it was powerful. I will say that when it hit number one, the best way to explain it is I felt like I got a chainsaw when everybody else had a hatchet. Like I could
wow,
cut through the noise. Like people could see me coming if if I had a best-selling book. Nobody
yeah,
that I knew around me in any entrepreneur space close to me at that time had a best-selling book. So it
yeah.
gave me an advantage. And all you're looking for as a startup entrepreneur is just is an advantage somewhere. And then you
Right.
exploit the hell out of that advantage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so talk a little bit about that for the entrepreneur, for the business owner, for anybody that this might be for. Um, Talk a little bit more about the advantages of getting a book out. Like, what are some of the other things outside of what others might think that that's the way to find success, or that's the way to get to attention, or that's the way to differentiate. Talk a little bit about the value of a book or published book outside of maybe those other things or in addition to those other things.
Well, I think it converts you into a teacher more than anything, right? You're a sales guy. All you're there to do is to sell. Well, turns out if you educate and if you teach, you are now adding value. And when you give enough value, people look at you in a different light and they say, you know what? This person has already given me so much. I'm willing to now give up a resource. Other than time, I'll give up my money to either be close to them, hire them, or partner with them to some degree. So it turns you into a teacher. But I would say the number one thing it does is it gives you authority, right? When you think of all the people who are experts in their field, there is one characteristic that they all have. Most of them, I would say most, not all, most have a book, right? So you want authority. When you walk into a room or on stage or on a podcast or a sales call or in your team meetings, you want authority. You don't want to walk in and say something and nobody take notice of it, right?
Right,
So in
right.
order for you to boost your authority, you could do that many different ways. But the root word for authority is author. Makes
That's
so much
awesome.
sense. So
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you have a book, you boost your authority. And then what you can do with that is you basically give a glimpse behind the curtain. And
yeah,
so let's say you give value. I talked about being a teacher. Here are 10 steps on how to get in the best shape of your life. 5 ways to make money today. Here's how to generate leads. Here's how to grow a business. Nobody cares about you, okay, until you help them with their life. So you become a teacher. Give value, right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
also boost your authority by having something that most people do not have. Most people want to have a book someday, right? That's a
yeah,
legacy piece. You're accomplishing something that they want to accomplish. And then the other piece of it is you peel back the curtain and you show who you are as a person. And here's
yeah.
the phrase that I live by. Nobody cares about you until you help them with their life, but nobody trusts you until they know your backstory. So it
Wow.
gives you a reason to become a storyteller. Tell the stories of your failures, of your divorces, of your mistakes, of the things that don't paint you in a good light, because that will humanize you. And they will say, you know what? They have the courage to talk about their failures. And you know what? I tried that. You know what? I wanted that type of car. Oh my God, I did that too. I like this person more. And
Yeah.
so, the common phrase that people do business with those who they know, like, and trust. You're doing that as you tell more stories about yourself. And the
Wow.
more and more you do it, people get to know, like, and trust you at a higher level, which allows you to speed up the time frame of whenever you meet them on a sales call or at a meeting. It's almost like they know you before they met you. And if you
Wow.
can do that, you can do wonders with your business. So I would say those three aspects for sure.
Wow, that's so good, so good. And that's kind of why I even format this podcast the way I do it is I start with origin stories because, I've interviewed people that, the last episode was somebody that had made $111 million in 6 years. And then I interviewed somebody that made 57 million from one webinar. And, and you hear those stories and it's like, man, that's so unattainable. But when you hear their backstory, when you hear their origin story, it just makes it so much more doable. It makes it so much more, okay, they wrestle with the same things I'm wrestling right now. Now, I haven't made that, but they were at a place that I'm at right now. So, it gives people hope and lets them kind of see that backstory and allows them to see, well, I can, maybe I'll reach what they reach. Maybe I'll surpass them. Maybe I'll get half or a quarter of that, but at least I kind of know where they're coming from. So I love that you shared that about being an author and writing a book is some of that backstory makes a difference.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say to themselves, nobody cares about who I am or where I come from. That's not true, right? If I'm going to do business with someone, even if it's at a low level, let's just say it's $100 or $1,000. The older I get, the more I feel like money is just a representation of energy. And I want to give my energy to people that I share common values with.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why, people do their brand and their personal brand, especially a disservice to not talk about certain things that are extremely important to them. I mean, I talk about my Christianity. I talk about politics and how I'm a Trump guy. And you think that might hurt you amongst the community. Well, it bonds you. You become a magnet of like-minded people. And
Right.
especially if you have a service-related business, don't you want to wake up every day and say, man, I can't wait to work with my friends to some degree?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if you hide all the stuff that makes you who you are going to attract potentially the wrong person. And I think that does you and your brand a disservice.
I love that. Well, yeah, and it'll attract those that you want to attract, and it'll repel those that maybe would be problem clients, or there might be a conflict at some point. So sharing that stuff authentically, it's going to stir people up. Anytime you get into religion or politics, you're going to get people that are very vocal and very opinionated by it.
Yep.
But you just got to learn how to filter. You got to learn how to kind of be who you are and build that personal brand. And so for somebody that is like, okay, I want to write a best-selling book.
Yeah.
That's the next thing I know. And actually, I do want to write a book based on this podcast. Is I want to take all the interviews and put it into a book and call it the Head Smack book, Conversations with Misfits. So that
I
is
love
one of
it.
my goals for this year is to do that. And so, so for somebody that's wanting to start a book, first of all, let's filter it a little bit. Who shouldn't write a book?
It's a good question. So I'm going to be, I guess this is such a generic, bland answer, but I believe everybody should write a book. And the reason why is because it gives you such clarity on where you come from, where you're at now, and where you want to go. So forget about business for a second. It's going to give you clarity. So that's why I say, even if you're not going to sell it online, write a book. It becomes sort of a diary, right? But what you're
Mm,
doing is providing a glimpse of your life and seeing if it's, number one, entertaining, if it's valuable to your former self, right? That's another way I gauge success is, have you learned enough that right now, if you went back to 1990, 1995, 2000, whatever, like I always have Back to the Future stuff within my brand because it does make so much sense. If you got in that DeLorean and went back 10, 20, 30 years and gave yourself, your former self, a recipe for success, will that recipe really speed up that time frame of success? And will it get them on the right track? Very much like how Marty goes back to his dad and gives him the
yeah,
mindset that you can accomplish anything if you put your mind to it. All you need to do is those little lessons that you might take for granted now. If you think, oh my God, if it's valuable to my former self, I know for sure it can be valuable to someone out there right now? If
Yeah.
you can answer that question, you should write a book. So to kind of jump off of that and go into the direction, if you're a business owner, 100%, and here's why. You want to lead with value. Very much like Gary Vee, even though I'm not the biggest Gary Vee fan, he does nail it with the give, and then ask. The jab, 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 and then the right hook.
Yeah.
You could walk up to people. You could have it on your Facebook page. You could have it as a promotion. If you sign up for a call, I'll give you a free copy of my book. It's the give. And so what you're doing there is you are now breaking everything down into lessons you'd give your former self or your clients. You're articulating the stories that taught you that lesson, that gives you clarity, which allows you to become a better communicator on stage or on a podcast. And then you are really thinking through that avatar. Who is the perfect reader? And what's really cool about this is that it makes you a better marketer. Who
Yeah.
is the perfect reader? Who is going to pick this book up and gain value from it? And if you can connect those dots and you put this book out there, anybody who reads that book is going to be in line to maybe watch that course, sign up for a consultation, or invite you to their event for you to speak at their event. So think about how it's a daisy chain. And when you put it all together, it makes your life easier. So clarity, self-awareness. It also makes you a better communicator. It makes you a better storyteller. And it helps maybe put those check boxes in line for that business, I used to say hero's journey or customer journey, however you want to look at it.
Right.
When they get the book, maybe they schedule a call, maybe they sign up, maybe they come to the webinar. And so it does flow very nicely. So everybody should write a book, especially if you have a business. And the marketing, I will say this nice little equation for you guys. Is it more important to have the greatest content or be the better marketer? That is a tough question, but I would say 80% of a success of a book is on how you use the book rather than what's inside of it. So if you can market it better than the next person, even if it's not a better story or maybe even a better amount of lessons in there, if you're a better marketer, you could use it properly and gain the advantage of getting a community, a marketplace, and boosting yourself up as you're helping more people along the way.
Wow, that is so good, man. So, okay, so everybody needs to write a book, but I'm sure there are different types of books as well, because different types of people, different kind of business owners own different kind of businesses, and so a coach or a branding guy or a guy that speaks on certain topics, or a coach or somebody, they have topics that they can write on that's maybe a little easier. But what about the chiropractor, the roofer, should they write a book? And what would a book like that be like?
Yeah. Oh, great questions. Here, the equation I said before, general lessons tied to specific stories geared towards a specific audience. You remember those three pieces. General lessons. Do not overcomplicate it. This is a first date. This is not about marriage, right? You're not trying to give every detail of your life and give everything you've ever known in this world or learned. You want generic lessons. So, and that's another art of this, right? You are simplifying your life and key characteristics of your life that you want to give to someone else. You would think that the more you complicate it, the smarter you sound. Steve Jobs proved that wrong. It's all about simplicity. That's why everything that they do is very simple, because the real artist makes it simple. And so break everything down to a word or a phrase. All right. So chiropractor, you do not want to go into the ins and outs with your first book. Now, as time goes on and you build that following, you might want to get very specific. But this is like a funnel, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Think about, you're going to give this book out to 100 people. 95%, no matter what, even if it's the greatest book ever written, will not read it from cover to cover. So you want to give enough information in there that will help them with their life on an airplane ride. We call them airplane books. So general lessons, you're not going to get into the details. So a roofer, for example, if I was a roofer and I was putting out a book, I would say, all right, let me put together a book on 10 ideas on how to boost the value of your property. Or if there's one that's like 10 things to look for before you buy your first property, right? You are now starting to give enough value to anybody who's a homeowner or before you sell your house, or
Right,
I
right.
wouldn't really, as a roofer, I wouldn't say like 10 ways to fix your roof, right? Because you're not going to give that to someone who's going to hire you. It's going to be someone who's going to do it themselves.
Yeah,
I would do it in a way where it's like, all right, if I want many clients, I would give this to homeowners everywhere. Oh,
yeah,
wait a second. The guy who wrote the best-selling book on how to boost the value of your property, or 10 things to do before you sell your property,
right,
number 10, get a new roof. Here's why, or whatever. That's a part of it, which now makes you more of a general lesson guy that's adding value to their life within
right,
as being a homeowner. And then one of it is, if you need help with your roof, I could come out and give you a free quote, right?
right.
So you tie it in cleverly, but it's general lessons. The more
Yeah,
specific you get with the lessons, you're going to lose people, and that's not going to do your brand too much of a service. So general lessons, and then so you talked about the different businesses. I'm just going to hold up a few of them here.
yeah.
These are
Awesome.
examples. This just became a bestseller last week. His name is Billy Bat. All right, Unlimited Seller's Guide for finding businesses to buy at will. Right. Unlimited Seller's Guide. All he's trying to do is help people buy businesses. So lesson number 1, let's just see what he puts together here. Building your foundation, finding the right business, cold email strategies that work, the power of referral partners. You've heard these things before many times, right? But this is his recipe. And then
Yeah,
you tie in the stories of what he went through as a kid. You should hear the stories coming from Canada, difficulty with his ex-wife, all that. You really like this guy afterwards. So if I'm going to buy a business, you know what? I'm going to scan that QR code. I'm going to have a call with him because I like him. So I've
yeah.
heard these lessons before, but you know what's different about this guy is the story behind the lesson. So
Right. I relate
that's
to him.
why
Yeah,
you want to make it so it falls in line with your business, but you don't go into the weeds of every single thing. And I think Alex Hormozy has said it before, but basically you give everything you can in a book or in a course. Information is free. The application, the actual doing is what you charge for. So you give
nice.
enough to get them started. And then if you want them to really be dangerous, you actually do it for them.
Right. And so, for example, for that author there, what does he sell? Like, what does he actually do? If the book itself isn't, everything, or the details of everything that he does, what exactly does he do? So how? So I want because I want to relate the book and the vehicle and to what he actually does. What does he actually do?
Yeah, so he has services that look for businesses to buy.
Okay.
So he will, do data scraping, find businesses for sale, reach out to businesses that are maybe in decline and try to see if he could maybe help them sell or help them, grow their business using AI and certain technology.
So it's kind of
So
like you shared. It's the do, and
it's the do. Yes,
yeah.
yes. So he's
Okay.
going to do it for you. Hey, I'm going to teach you
Right.
what I've done. Here's the thing. Even if you have every piece of detail of what you do in a book, still, there's still something that they need maybe their handheld to some degree. There
Right.
needs to be a Mr. Miyagi in their life that says, here's how you do it. Here's what you don't do. I've done it. You could do it yourself. Tony Robbins gives us everything he needs, or we need. But to go to the event to really experience it, it's probably one step higher. So
Right.
it's only step 1. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Have you read that book, by the way?
I have it. I haven't finished it
Oh my
yet.
God, it's one of the greatest books of all time. So it maybe is the greatest.
I collect books more than I read them. I'm terrible at that.
So that book itself talks about being a business owner and an investor, and it talks about the importance of real estate. Now, if you read that, like I did, all right, I'm going to become a real estate agent and I'm going to buy my first property. Still, when you buy your first property, you are going to make mistakes. They have an event to go to called the Rich Dad Poor Dad Seminar, which you can team up with people, spend the 10, 15, $20,000, and they'll walk you through the entire deal. So
Yeah.
the book is sort of like, here's my flag. Are you in for this area or not? Oh, you know what? You got enough to get started, but not to be dangerous. Come to this event and we will coach you through it for your first, second, third properties, and then you're off on your own. So that's what I recommend. Even like this guy right here, Built to Win, Tim Lyons. He owns multiple gyms. He helps people grow gyms. Everything that he teaches people is in one of his 3 books that we worked with him on, and it's all there.
Yeah.
But you know what? Whenever the rubber hits the road, there's still going to be situations. Is this gym? I read the book, but is this gym in a good zip code? This
Yeah.
population is only
Yeah.
growing at this rate. What about this branding? Oh, you know what? If I get this equipment, do I put it in this area? Do I do all coaching or do I do all machines? You know what I mean? So it's these
Right.
little
Right.
questions that a guide, and if you have enough books, if you have enough podcasts, if you've not done enough speeches, you're the guy that's going to attract the attention. So, in my opinion, this is how the world works. The greatest marketer always wins. You need to do more, say more, be more than the other real estate agent down the road, even if they really know their stuff.
Right.
It's all psychology. If you have the book, if you have the podcast, if you're out there showing yourself on social media, the average person is going to say, you know what, this person seems more committed than that guy down the road. Even though
Yeah.
that guy's been doing it for 60 years, I just don't see his stuff. Maybe he's not going to be here next year. I trust this guy, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we work with. That's what we help people maybe build that stepping stone from book to how to use it as a growing business addition, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Well, and as you were saying, I know the quote. I don't know who originated the quote, but it's not the best who wins; it's the best known who wins.
Oh
And to,
yeah, that's a good
you
point.
know, and to be the best known is, as you've shared, one of the ways to do that is to do it through a book. Is to get out there and start getting exposure through publishing a book. And so some of the things that you shared, I want to kind of tag onto and also get a little maybe more elaboration because somebody might push back and say, I don't want to put everything I know into a book because then will people still contact me if I've given them everything? And you already shared that they still do. Every author still gets booked to go to speaking events and paid lots and lots of money for it to basically say what's in the book.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and I've seen it over and over where it literally a author will create a best-selling book and then get speaking gigs and get engagements to basically say what's in the book. And so I do want to encourage those that might be hesitant and say, well, man, if I just put all my ideas and all my thoughts and everything in the book, then what are people going to pay me for?
Yep.
Right. And so what else would you add to that?
Man, that's common. And you know what? It's more common amongst the people who are not successful. They're always holding on, and it's a scarcity mindset, right? I have the answer, and I don't want to give it because if I give it, then they're going to steal it. You know what? We're all saying the same stuff. I've interviewed hundreds. Today's our 381st best-selling book push. I've interviewed pretty much every single one for hours. I don't hear too many new ideas, right? So it's amazing how everybody thinks they have this new idea and this new strategy when reality we're all learning the same stuff. And you can go
Right.
back to different historical, pieces of content, whether it's the Bible, whatever. Eventually, you see common trends. And the
Right.
people who hold on to it, it's a limited mindset. They're saying, you know what? I'm not going to tell the real information on social media, in a book, or on a stage until they pay me. It's not how the world works, right?
Yeah.
If you talk to Napoleon Hill, right? Napoleon Hill puts out a book. It's the secrets of the ultra wealthy back in the day, and it's, Think and Grow Rich. If he would have said, you know what, I don't want to do this because I want them to pay me first, he would not be known as the great writer and communicator
Right.
as he
Right.
became. Jordan Peterson, you think he's really holding back? No. I have seen the people who are the most successful say, listen, I know you're not going to implement it. I'll do it for you, but I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm doing it, where I got it from, what to do next. And you know what? If you do that enough times on enough mediums, people are going to say, God, that person is just full of insight. It's always a new idea. What would it be like if we bought that program? What would it
Yeah.
be like
Yeah.
if we actually worked with his team? He's changed my life. Even though Robert Kiyosaki is kind of getting I guess you could say, being known as sort of a grumpy old man, I will hold him with such high regard for the rest of my life because he changed my life. If he would have
Yeah.
held back in that book, even though it was Sharon Lecter, which was the actual ghostwriter of that book, if they held back, man, my life would be different. So
Yeah,
I say give, 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 and then eventually ask, you know what? I've given you so much value. People are going to feel obligated because you know what? This person changed my life. This person didn't. I'm going with you. I'm joining your webinar. I'm buying from your service. I really want to talk to you because you're so full of insight. Don't hold back. It's going to limit you. And here's the thing. Every day you should be changing. Every day you should be learning more. So what you
yeah,
learn today, all right? Feed it. Feed it to the AI machine. Feed it out into the world because tomorrow you're going to adapt and evolve and you're going to have more, new ideas, new content. And so
yeah,
if you become a person of value, that's be valuable to valuable people, you're constantly adding value to your life. So what you learn next year wasn't in that book. So keep producing new content, keep adding value to yourself, and you just watch how people treat you, right? So don't be that person that's saying I'm going to hold it all in, because if you
yeah, yeah.
do, you're going to be holding in a lot that could help another person. And I just think the laws of the universe will not serve you if you keep it all to yourself.
Yeah, man, that's so good. All right, so I'm going to make another assumption, and I do want you to share maybe the real assumptions or pushback or resistance that you've seen people have. But would another resistance be that, do you know what? I have not made that first 100 million. I have not achieved this level of achievement that makes me worthy of writing a book. What do I am just, and it's a mindset, of course, but is that a legit one that you've seen? Is that one that I've just made up out of my head? What are some of the resistance that you've seen people give you when you've said you need to write a book? What are some of those things that they've said?
Yeah, that's called imposter syndrome, and
Yeah.
everybody faces it. It doesn't matter if you've just broken 100,000 or 1 million or 10 million or a billion. If you say, you know what, I am not going to write this book until I break 100 million. Do you realize that in the eyes of Elon Musk, that means nothing, 100 million, right? So
Right,
there's
right.
always going to be someone who's so much further than you.
Yeah.
Here's the answer. Can it help someone anywhere in this world? Can it help your former self? So that imposter syndrome, I think, is there to help, to protect us to some degree. Oh, you know what? I feel like I don't belong here, but I need to fight through this, right? And that fighting through is where you have to prove it to yourself and to those around you that you belong. When I put out my first book, people always said, like, oh my God, or my close friends even, who do you think you are writing a book and becoming a
Yeah.
bestseller? Who do you think you are? You start to change the hierarchy. And maybe this new identity is where you start to find more confidence in yourself. And so imposter syndrome is always there. Case in point, I always bring up Robert Kiyosaki for this reason. If you listen to one of his books, he actually says he fought imposter syndrome when Donald Trump called him to do a book together. Now, here is Robert Kiyosaki in 1998 or 1999, somewhere in there, getting a call from Donald Trump. Now, at this point, Robert Kiyosaki is the best-selling author in personal development in many, many years, and he's crushing it, right? He's at the top of his game. Everyone knows him. He has this event. It's unbelievable. He's very successful, multimillionaire. But Donald Trump, the billionaire, just called and said, let's do a book together. He almost turned it down because he said he was not ready to do a book with Donald Trump. Who am
Wow.
I to be in that book with him? So even when you hit the game at the top of the level, you're going to feel it. You have to fight through that. So it's natural, but the people who I've seen become very successful put out a book. And rather than just have that as something that people can judge you upon, they say, watch me now. I'm going to do that book, turn it into a bestseller, get on that stage, create an event, serve thousands of people, change people's lives, read the reviews that are on Amazon. Now I'm going to apply that to more books, more content, more ideas, more businesses. And so you're always fighting it. And maybe that's there to either keep the people who don't want it bad enough out and as
Yeah.
a test for those people who really want it bad. So use that fear of what people are going to say about you as fuel. Allow it push you through the finish line and then keep running to continually find new finish lines to push through.
Wow. Wow. So what other resistance do people give you to writing a book?
Well, I don't have the money.
Yeah.
That's resistance.
Well, that's yeah, and it could
But
be a mindset, but
so
that's sometimes a reality too. Yeah.
That's a reality. Yep. So it's usually imposter syndrome. It's I don't know what I want to write about. It's I don't know what type of business I want to start. The greatest barrier is lack of clarity. And
Yeah.
I've been in many masterminds. I've in 2023, I think I was a part of 9 or 10 masterminds, and spending over 6 figures on personal development groups.
Yeah.
And people always ask me, like, why are people not moving forward with you on those sales calls? And I said, they just are not clear on where they're going in life. And I can't help them with that, right? I
Yeah.
can't tell you, you know what, 10 years from now, you should be the tax guy. You should be the person. This is a self-awareness check that you have to know yourself and where you really want to go. So the people who struggle are the ones who don't know where they're going, and they want to be perfect, right? They want perfection. That's another limitation. I want it to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
perfect.
Right.
Here's the kicker. Nothing's perfect. The perfect book to me, in my opinion, was Rich Dad Poor Dad. The girl who I was dating at the time hated that book, right? Wasn't perfect for her. She liked
Yeah.
fiction. And
Yeah.
most people who are not in personal development, they love fiction, right? I hate fiction. So
Yeah.
everything is subjective, whether it's a business you build, whether it's the book you write, whether it's the content you put out. And I think as long as you feel like there's a great book out there, and Sean Whalen. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
Yeah.
Sean
Yeah.
Whalen wrote a book, and it's full of errors. And this is something that people come up to me and say, "Man, I read that book. It's full of errors, and why would he put it out there? You know why? Because the book is called How to Get Shit Done." And it changed a lot of people's lives. It helped people
Yeah.
get into the game of entrepreneurship. So even though I'm maybe not the biggest fan of everything he's done or what he says, he did put out a book that was full of grammatical errors and all kinds of problems within the book, but it got people ignited for entrepreneurship. So forget about perfection, because nothing is perfect. Even if you write this book a year later, a month later, a week later, you're going to find something and you're going to say, you know what? I should have wrote it that way. Damn it.
Right. Right.
Another
Right.
reason I always say perfection is the enemy, all right, is because Jordan Peterson wrote his first book. Are you familiar with Jordan Peterson?
Oh
Do you
yeah.
follow his
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
the guy, right? I
Yeah.
went to the
Super
event in
smart.
Pittsburgh when he was here. So Jordan Peterson even said he wrote his first book, Maps and Meanings. Right? I don't know if you read that, but that's one of his
No.
least popular books. It's his first book. Now he
Yeah.
put out 12 Roles, or there's Wrestle with God. These are much bigger books, but his
Right.
first book, he said he rewrote every sentence at least 10 times, and he
Wow.
spent X amount of months on it that he shouldn't have, and he will never do that again. So trying to be perfect is going to limit your success and really make it a marathon when it can be a sprint, and probably, kind of hurts your chances of success in general. So I say get things done as fast as possible, and then refine as time goes on with your
Yeah.
new content, with your new ideas, because repetition is what creates greatness, in my opinion. So get a book done, find your weaknesses, don't worry about being perfect, fight through that imposter syndrome, be of value to those around you, tell stories that are meaningful to you so you can give a glimpse of who you are as a person, and then start to identify who this book or this content can really help. And if you do that enough times, you're going to get very good at it.
Wow. That's so good. So, we're quickly running out of time here, and I have a dozen more questions, but
We
uh,
can always do it again.
this has been awesome, man. And so you've shared right there in that last snippet, you shared a lot of great value. And so the first step is, you've mentioned clarity several times. If somebody's like, okay, I'm ready to write a book, I've gotten past imposter syndrome, I've gotten past, feeling that it needs to be perfect, I've gotten past all those things you said, I'm ready to go. What's the first thing that you seek from them or tell them they need to do to get going?
Okay, so it's very easy. When I meet with them, I say, okay, do you have 15? That's the magic number, 15 lessons you would give your former self, yes or no? I'm looking for 15. And this could be, oh yeah, I would tell that person, your net worth is based off of your network. Perfect. It's a general lesson that you would tell yourself. So join many mastermind groups, get around very successful, high level thinkers. Great. Okay. Do you have a story tied to that lesson? Yes, I do actually. Great. Perfect. You're good. And who's the perfect reader for this book? Most likely an entrepreneur, maybe 25 to 35, who is in a home service business. Oh, perfect. Done. So now you got lesson, story, target audience. You do that 15 times, and then you would say, okay, if this is something that's really important for me to know, but also for yourself, how will you use this book when it's done? That's all that really matters. When this book is done, what's your next chess move? Are you going to send it out to podcasters to get on podcasts? And if those listeners like you, will they go to your website to schedule a call with you or even buy the book itself? Yeah, you know what? That's the next step. Perfect. Now you have the next chess move, which I'm going to help you bridge that together through the book and also in the marketing. Title the book, subtitle, forget about that stuff until the book is written. Use AI. Use AI for all it's worth and maybe help you put together the title and the subtitle when it's written. And we
Yeah.
are using AI to a high degree now, and it's changing the game. So title and subtitle comes after it's written. And then you put together a cover design. Whenever we do the official book writing process, we base it off of the title and subtitle that most likely AI will give us. Cover designs are very easy if you use programs, whether it's 99 Designs or Upwork or some other programs. You could find great designers. Title, subtitle, 2 to 3 colors that are dominant. Make sure it's in line with your brand that you see yourself talking about and showcasing when the book is done. And now, don't overcomplicate it. Title, subtitle, make sure the title is a positive synonym for your name. Don't make it negative. Mike Fallat equals 99 ways to get more leads. Mike Fallat equals $1 million book. Mike Fallat equals The Dream Starter, which is all book titles. And when it's written, we use a writer combining with AI, and we do it within 21 days. Send it to you, refine it 2-3 times. That book is done. Upload it to Amazon. Amazon prints it for about $4 per copy. You get it in the mail and you say, oh my God, this is a real book. I just paid $4 for this from Amazon. They delivered it to me because it's print on demand. Review it one last time. Give us the thumbs up. We put you on the schedule. We turn you into an Amazon bestseller. And what that means is we're trying to get 50 sales within 3 hours. So it's not too hard, guys. It's just, you just got to know the game. In the right category, on the right day, Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 12 o'clock Eastern time. Don't do it on a weekend. Don't do it near a holiday. Don't do it on a Monday. A couple reasons for that I can get into some other time, but Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 12 o'clock Eastern time. Your friends, your family, all buy the book, 3 hours, and you will have an accolade that will never die for the rest of your life.
Wow, man, that's so good. All right, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so go to dreamstarterspublishing.com. If you schedule a call with me, I'll give you a copy of my book. I'll give you an audio copy. Everything that I just talked about, I do myself. So you'll see, once you schedule a call with me, I can show you what we do, how we do it. I can go into all the details, answer any questions. And you can always see me on Instagram or Facebook. Very easy to find, Mike Fallat. That's Fallat. And the best Instagram channel right now that you could find me on is The Dream Starter.
Man, that is so good. Well, you've got me more inspired than ever to get my book going this year. So, yeah, this has been amazing. And so, final question as we wrap this up. You've written a lot of books, you've published a lot of books, you've probably read a lot of books, and you referenced Back to the Future. So, if you were to take one book back to young Mike, what book would you take back to him?
Oh man, it's a really good question. All right, so the book that I would have to, it's probably not the most successful for my business, but it's the one that means the most probably. But my book called Never Say Die. You see my sign back there, Never Say Die. The reason why is because May 2023, my mom dies, okay? And I'm putting together her obituary. And here I am, the writer of the family, writing my mom's obituary. And you realize of everything that she has done, everything she's accomplished, and she's the greatest mom and all these memories, you boil her life down to a few words. And that's when it hit me. What are the few words that I want my life to be based upon? What am I going to stand for? Am I going to stand for books? Am I going to stand for books? 500 years from now might not exist. So am I really the book guy 500 years from now? What would I really want to be known for? I want to be known for the guy who just never gives up. And if you never give up, and if you never surrender, and if you never wave that white flag, you have a chance at anything, whether it's the girl or the business or the success that you dream of, and you can really inspire those around you. I'm not here to say I can compete with Elon Musk on intellect. I think he's the smartest and greatest entrepreneur that's ever lived. But what I can say is, you know what? I have the heart to just keep going. And you know what? If I am just remembered as that, and I give that inspiration to somebody, as in my former self or someone around me, they have a chance. And so Never Say Die is probably my favorite book, even though it's probably one of the least successful financially. It is my identity that I really want to share with myself or my former self and those around me. So it's a great question.
Man, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being on today. And that hour went past way too quickly, and so I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you sharing what you've shared. And I know there's so much value in just even this 1 hour that we've shared today. That somebody can get inspired to get a book out there. I know it's inspired me to get busy with my first book, Head Smack, Conversations with Misfits. And so I'm looking forward to going back and listening to this again and maybe reaching out to you at some point to get this done. Thank you, man. Appreciate you being on.
Well, it was an honor. I love talking with you. Anytime I hear the word misfit, I'm in. So anytime you want me back on, I'd love to be here. So yeah, you're doing awesome stuff. I love the podcast and the direction. So anytime, any place, man.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Have a good one.
You are listening to Conversations with Misfits, Mavericks, and Trailblazers.